Thank you, everyone, for sitting down peacefully.
All right, hi, thanks so much for coming. My name is Jojo. I'm the head of narrative on Cult of the Lamb. You may recognize me from selling you merch earlier. Lovely to speak with you again.
I'm Jay Armstrong. I'm the director of game design for Cult of the Lamb.
I'm Carlos, and I'm the artist. I draw stuff.
Carlos draws. So today we're just going to start by having a little bit of a discussion and asking some questions, and then we can do some questions from you guys if there are any. But I guess my first question is for Jay.
Hello.
Hello. So where did the story of Cult of the Lamb come from?
So the story of Cult of the Lamb really came out of the game design and also the promise that we had a player fantasy that we were trying to fulfill, which was like running a cult and caring for people. And so everything in the story kind of led back to that. We didn't start with like this idea for like a movie. We started with the mechanics, which was the loop of going round and round, trying to care about your followers, and then trying to run a cult. We knew that like making a game about running a cult meant that we had a promise to the players that you were going to fulfill the fantasy of running a cult. And so the story just built out of that.
And then, so that's very much covering like the followers and like the main themes and stuff. But the bishops, where did they come from?
Well, the bishops came out of just trying to get you to go into the dungeon, because we needed to kind of motivate players to keep moving through the game. And so by having narrative, having lore seeded throughout that world, it was kind of exciting. Every time you went in, you learned a little bit more about this mysterious world that you were kind of uncovering secrets as you went. And so those characters kind of built up through that need, and then having them different from each other was really important. We didn't want like 4 similar bosses who were just like, hey, I'm going to beat you up in my temple. We wanted some variety, some light and shade to it. And so it was like a very iterative process.
Yeah, and when I joined the 4 or maybe more, I don't want to spoil if you haven't finished the game, bishops, were all very much in place, and they were very inspired by the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, as most of us do know. And then I think the greatest joy for me is really developing the subtleties and nuances of their relationships. And I think that's like something a lot of players are drawn to, the fact that they have these really interesting dynamics in the way that they feel and relate to each other as well.
I think you hit on something as well there, where they're based on the sort of 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, but we tried to map some kind of meaning or some kind of deeper symbol to each of them so that there was kind of depth. Because if they were just, it meant that it was also kind of selfish, because it meant whenever we wrote some conversation, it was a bit easier, because we had quite a lot of information and things to draw upon. So rather than just having cookie cutter villains, we tried to put a lot of depth into what they were.
And then Carlos, you're one of our fantastic artists. You've been with the project for a very long time. Big whoop for Carlos! What was the first thing you ever drew for Cult of the Lamb?
I actually drew the first key art of the game, so that's when it all started, and then everything went fine, I think.
It was only supposed to be 1 drawing, and yet here you are.
Lots of drawing later.
For those who don't know, what is key art?
It's like the main art of the game, like what you see when you go to Steam and you see the game. So that's the key art. That's not the cover art. The cover art is a different thing. So I had to learn that.
It's definitely an iconic image that many people, I think, here would have seen. And so in our studio, Massive Monster, we're really, really collaborative, and story ideas can really come from anyone. And Carlos, for you, a lot of times they come through drawing. So what do you think about when you draw for Cult of the Lamb?
That's really the worst question that an artist has, because I really don't know. I just have a bucket of fucked up things, and then I put a cute filter on what's inside that bucket, and I draw it. And that's kind of how everything comes out, I think.
So messed up things with a cute filter on top.
Yeah, basically.
Nice. And games are not just their art, and they're not just their writing, but they are experiences, right? They're things that you're trying to feel with the player and get the player to feel. So Jay, what is that kind of feeling, that meta story that we want to create for players?
I think it's about what would you do with power, right? That's the unanswered question, Jojo. That's the unanswered question. If you've been to Jojo's talk last week, you'll know that I stole that from her. But it's absolutely right. I think it's all about trying to make sure that the player, we're constantly seeding opportunities and rewards for being a little bit evil, for exploiting the followers, because that's such a big part of being a cult. And it's done in a way where you might not kind of realize it. And I think it's kind of, there's a meta element to it where you as a player might be telling your friend, oh yeah, I did this, and then I sacrificed them, and then I married them and killed them, and they go, what the hell, what are you playing? But you don't realize, because thanks to Carlos, it's so cute, we get away with a lot of that sort of thing, but there's a kind of the story of the game, and then there's also the story of the player experiencing the game and going on a path of being corrupted by power, because that's what the game's really all about.
And just to pivot away from like the meta story into the story, Carlos, what's your favorite story moment?
I think it's the intro of the game. I really like when the main character like walks through a long corridor. I kind of remembers of one of my favorite games, like it's Batman Arkham Asylum, like you walk a corridor at first, and I kind of like that. So the first part of the game.
Very iconic opening now.
Yeah, I love it.
The fact that it starts like so slow and you're just this powerless little lamb.
And then you get killed.
Then you get killed, and it creates such a contrast for everything else, because after that point you can just like do whatever you need and want to do. Hey, what's your favorite story moment?
I love the moment where you give up, like this might be spoilers, but where you give up Ratel, because I think it's got no gameplay element, but it's one of the most emotionally impactful moments of the game, and we've had so much kickback on it, but we're so certain that like if we ever brought Ratel back, it would undermine that choice that you've made, because at that point you really have become a monster, and so I think that's my favorite part.
Mine get quite niche, right? Because I'm head of narrative, so I know this story inside out, backwards, forwards. But mine would probably be leading up to Shimura's boss fight, so generally the fourth boss fight you do. And it's that moment where the narrative kind of turns on its head, because the whole time you've been like, oh, I'm doing this for this god who's telling me to do this stuff, and they've been wronged and they've been imprisoned. And then throughout you like get the unfolding of why that is and did they deserve it and everything like that. And then when you fight Shimura, who I love to write for because there's so many rhymes and riddles and I just love the way that they speak, you just learn that, oh, everything you thought was wrong and you don't get to keep this power that you've worked so hard to build. Those are ones that did make it in. Are there any story moments that we thought of that didn't make it into the game?
That's a really tough question, because we've been supporting the game for 2 years. All the stuff that we didn't make in launch, we've had 2 years to kind of get in now. So I think it's kind of hard. Anything that I feel like we cut so much from the game, but we brought so much of it back as well. And I kind of feel like there's more lamb on the way, and I think there's going to be plenty of chance to bring back. So I can't really think of anything, because I'd probably give you an example and then go, oh, I forgot we actually made that into the game.
I think mine is, we actually did have more information on Ratel and how he got to where he was and why he was, abandoned as a vessel, and what exactly happened when he ran his cult. And unfortunately that did have to get struck a bit as we worked through the game. And I don't know if that's ever going to make it back in, because obviously Ratel has his ending in whatever way that is. So yeah, that was something that I was sad that we lost that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back.
Yeah. Actually, it reminds me of the Executioner. We have like a whole ending for that person, but who knows? Maybe.
And a whole thing for the Executioner, who is the animal that kills you at the very, very start. Maybe they'll come back. I don't know. See what the people love. And then just a generic who are our favorite characters? Carlos?
Mine is Leslie. He's like the cutest thing ever, even in his eldritch form. Kind of remembers me of Kenny of South Park, so cute without the face. I don't know. I really love him.
I feel like I'll never be able to not see Leslie as Kenny from South Park now. I feel like I'm never going to unsee it. For me, it changes all the time. Currently, I really love the GOAT because it's the newest member of our cast of characters, and we've released this animation by Jan, who's this amazing animator we have, and it's a short, and it establishes this relationship between. So I think my walkie-talkie's popping off. It establishes a relationship between the lamb and the goat as a very sort of sibling kind of rivalry, and that wasn't something that we planned, and to see that come out was just such a joy, and I'm really excited to see what the two of them kind of get up to going forward.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to see the goats cosplayed here today, because I think this is the first convention we've done since that release, really, or the first one we've been to.
Yeah, definitely.
Adding a new character and then seeing the cosplays has just been so amazing. But what are some cosplays that we haven't seen that we would love to see?
Good question. I can't know. I'd love to see a bit of calamar because I feel like that would be very
never seen
involved.
calamar.
Tentacles and all that stuff. So I'd love
Nobody
to
likes that squid.
yeah, poor calamar.
I would love to see like a temple cosplay. Like you are the temple. Maybe you can look through the door. I don't know.
Head through the door.
Please someone cosplay as a temple. I will do a drawing for you. As a temple.
You cosplay as the temple to an event that Carlos is at. He will do a custom
free
drawing.
drawing, free drawing.
He's promised that. Mine is Shamak, who is the relic seller. Clownek, I love Clownek. Clownek gets a lot of love. Shamak is Clownek's crazy sister, and I would love to see her cosplay. Also because she is one of my favorite characters, and she actually, she has so much lore that we've developed for her, and I've pitched a Shamak story, I think every update we've done since she appeared, and it's yet to make it into the game.
Yeah.
But I'm not giving up on that, which is why I'm not sharing it now. It mine. I haven't given up on that.
It will. It will.
And then a preface for this next question is that regardless of what we say now, this is not canon. This is not going to be in the game. Do you guys ship anyone?
So this begs the question: is Nari Lam canon or not? So I don't know if
It's not. None of these answers are canon, Jake.
Okay, all right. I've got to go Nari Lam. I think that's the obvious choice.
Carlos?
I'm kind of obsessed with Nari Lam, but I think I have to think of something else. Like maybe like the Mystic Seller and Clownek can make a good couple.
I'd like to say that like every promotional piece of art, I think there was like a Christmas one, there was one prior to Sims as well, that has Nari Lam content in it. That was just Carlos going rogue.
Love the
Just
video
shoots it
too.
so hard.
Just sneaks it in there.
I'm so sorry.
He wants it to be canon, and I'm always like, no, it can't be canon. The player has to decide who they ship. We can't make that decision for them.
For those of you who don't know what Nari Lam is, it's Narinda, spoilers, final boss of the game, and the lamb. After the end of the game, there's a lot of memes around them finding each other romantically on the internet. So check it out.
And then, so, Cult of the Lamb has been a comic twice over. First is the Oni comics, which are the first verse, a retelling of the story of the game, and then the other one is in one we've made called Pilgrim. It is available for purchase here. The art was by Carlos, the story's by me. Why did we want to make a comic when we're game devs? That's crazy. Why'd we do that?
I don't know, because it's cool, I guess. Like having comics at home.
That's a great reason to do anything, right? Because it's cool.
Yeah, no, but I think like the world of Cult of the Lamb has so much potential that we don't see in the game. So I think it can be an amazing idea to explore this world in different mediums. I think comics is a good way to do it. So yeah, we kind of do it. So yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with it, so I can say this, but it's an amazing comic. If you haven't seen it, it's really, really cool. So congrats to you guys.
Just like Carlos said, like the world building of Cult of the Lamb is really interesting and it runs really deep. Like my world bible for the game is like at this point 40 pages long of content, just like ideas that I think would be cool and things that would be fun. And obviously when you make Cult of the Lamb, like the protagonist is the lamb, so you can't tell a story that doesn't involve them. And also it's locked down into like that 2.5 like perspective, right? And so making this comic was just an amazing opportunity to play with perspective, play with scale, see parts of the world that we never really get to see, and also tell a story that doesn't actually feature the lamb that much and see what it's like to live in that world as a different character. And you know, I think people like it. I think it's pretty fun.
Can I ask you a question? Have you learned things about the world by exploring that medium, either of you guys, just by changing the perspective, coming at the lore a different way? Has that been a useful way to generate new lore, new stories going forward that you might take into the game?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like when you're the lamb, you are the last god left in the lands of the old faith. You are the most powerful being that there is there. But it was looking at the world from the perspective of the follower who has no influence and no power, and they just are trying their best to survive. You just see the world from like a complete 180, like the complete mirror flip. What about you, Carlos?
I agree completely with that, with what you said.
I concur. Do we want to make more comics?
Of course, yeah.
what would you want another Cult of the Lamb comic to be about?
I just want to explore the world a bit. Like, we already have done a map of all the land, so let's explore even further. Let's go to all places, and I don't know.
What about you, Jay? If there was going to be another Cult of the Lamb comic, what would it be about?
Yeah, because we've done the lamb story is being told by Oni, and you guys have told this story about the follower. So maybe it'd be fun to see a bit more behind the scenes with the bishops. Maybe like going back in time a little bit before everything kicked off. It might be kind of fun to explore that because it's so shadowy and kind of behind the wall. We don't get to see much of that. So it'd be kind of fun to find out a bit more about them.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. I would love to like do the full bishop's backstory. I'd love to do the backstory of the three birds, Clowndat, Kadai, and Shamak. And I also have been brewing on a goat one. Like, I think it'd be really fun to do a comic about the goat.
Yeah, because we have no idea what's going on with the goat, right? So
who knows what's going on? And then, if there is anyone in the audience that has any questions, it can be about the lore of Cult of the Lamb. It can be about making stories in games. It can be about whatever. Tell us who your favorite ship is. You know, just chuck your hand up. We're gonna have to get a mic out there.
oh, thanks, Jim.
Oh my God, Jim's on it.
Thanks, my dude.
I was just wondering, because with the four bishops, there's also the kind of see no evil, hear no evil, think no evil, and that. Where did that kind of come from?
That's a great question. That actually, when we were talking about the four horsemen of the apocalypse, that was another kind of, what would you say, like trope or method to helping us build the lore. So having those things actually helped us structure what the world would become. So I think that was another like interesting piece, and then that led to us coming up with the idea of the wounds on the bishops. So it actually came from having, you know, the horsemen and the see no evil, hear no evil stuff. That then led to changing the designs because they didn't originally have the wounds, which then led to the story because we had all these different pieces and we spent a lot of time trying to fit them together. So having things like that, it's just a great way to help build out a world because it gives you a tool set, and it also it's really handy to use stuff that people are familiar with already. So yeah, awesome question.
Anyone else? Yeah. Got a couple over here.
Is the goat just a copy of the lamb from an alternate universe?
So the lamb comes from a realm where, and we've used the term like, you know, they're your corrupted reflection, they are the mirror universe kind of thing. But when I think about the world where the goat came from, I don't think of it as a perfect carbon copy, just inverted. I actually think that there are quite a few things in that world that, in the world that we know of Cult of the Lamb, when the lamb came, or major characters came to choices and they picked one direction, the goat in their world came to that choice and picked a different direction, but then that would have spiraled on in ways that we don't know and can't even see. So, in a way, yes, that world is the same, but I also think it's much different and much darker.
One of the things I like that's kind of unanswered at the moment is the goat has like a purple crown. And like, does that mean that they're Shimura's? Yeah, are they Shimura's vessel? Like, that's kind of a lot of stuff that we haven't like explored or been open with about yet. But I think there's a lot of room to talk about that. So the goat comic would actually be pretty cool because we could kind of dig into that sort of stuff.
Watch this space. Any other quizzes?
Okay, once you beat the game, the circle head shows up. Who is he and why is he there?
So yeah, do you guys want to take? Okay, so the circle head, known also as the mystic seller, who you get to rename, appears because you've killed all of the gods and you've become the final god. And this mystic seller is the shopkeeper to the gods. And so he's got no one left to sell to anyone, so he has to come to you. But you're a new god, so you haven't done a good job yet. And so that's why they send you, because you've killed the bishops, but you haven't liberated their souls. And that's why you're sent to go and do it again. So they kind of appear and they go kind of, hey, what's all this mess you've made? Like, there's no gods left for me to sell to. And that's why they appear, and that's why they send you on that new mission, and it helps you become from a fledgling god to a full god.
Yeah, they're a remnant of a much bigger world, I suppose. There was a question up here that's been waiting for a minute. Thanks, Jim.
Will there be a fishing update?
Oh, will we get a fishing update? A fishing update. What do you think, guys? Fishing update?
Yeah, I like to draw fishes.
Jim says yes.
Jim
so-
says yes, so it's going to happen. It's something, one of those things that we keep talking about, and you know, I said earlier, like, there's a lot of ideas that we scrap, but the good thing is we've been doing this for a while, so we've come back to it. And fishing update is one of the things we talked about right at the beginning, and we just keep not getting around to it. So I think we'll get around to it, definitely.
Are there other gods in like other places of Cult of the Lamb world?
That's a big one. It's what lies outside of the lands of the old faith. There's definitely something. In Pilgrim, the comic we've just made, the main character comes from somewhere far away across the seas. I think the world out there is very different because Jalala, this character, comes to the lands of the old faith and she's like, what the heck is going on here? So a very, 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 very long time ago, the old gods severed the lands from the rest of the world, and it developed in this kind of isolated soup and became a really intense place of cult and religion. So I'm not sure if there are other gods past those lands, but whatever it is, it's something very, very different.
Why was the lamb getting sacrificed in the first place?
The lamb was being sacrificed because there was a prophecy that a lamb would bring back the one who waits, and the one who waits was imprisoned by all the other bishops because the bishops had ganged up on them and locked them away, and so they went out and they killed, actually I feel like you're much better at explaining this, but they went out and killed every single lamb, and the lamb you play at is the very last one who happens to then be resurrected and fulfill that prophecy. But I think, Jojo, could you expand on that, because I feel like you have documents. Maybe you could talk a little bit about how you keep all your laws straight and, you know, some of the tools you have for that.
Yeah, so to your question, yes, the lamb is killed at the start to prevent the one who waits from being freed, because a prophecy was read in the cards by Clowneck saying that, praise the lamb, I've forgotten the quote now, conduit to great power, promised liberator of the one who waits below. And so the bishops, desperate to cling on to their power, just so afraid of losing it, commit an absolute genocide of this one land species. And, you know, there's like some more stuff in the pipeline to explore all that. But yeah, the lore runs really, really deep. And our cast of characters keeps growing bigger and bigger, and the world keeps expanding every single time. And so I have, like I mentioned before, this like pretty intense, like 40-page world Bible that tries to, like, that keeps all of the facts and figures straight. And that is something that is always alive, and it's always growing and adapting to design decisions and things that like the community really, really respond to. Essentially, every major decision that we make in the game, I have at least one answer for why it's happened, and that can change, you know, if the direction changes or anything like that. But it's a lot, and that's why I also, I'm the head of narrative for Cult of the Lamb, and I use the fan wiki all the time. Like, it is just such a great collation of like all this beautiful knowledge and things about the game. So if anyone out there is a mod who maintains the wiki, I'm really grateful for your work.
There's a real iceberg, isn't there, where there's so much stuff below the surface that we don't even show in the game, but you have documented and thought through and justified. And so we give like little bits out, and it creates a sense of a much deeper world, but there is a much deeper world that you've been working on for.
Yeah, there is. I think players are really, really intuitive. Like, everyone's like a really natural storyteller, because stories are something that we're all so used to. And so even if we don't provide answers for everything, I also think that players will be able to tell if something is off. It's kind of like how you need to do a sketch before you can, like, and get all the proportions correct before you can actually do like the detailing of a character. I have to have like a sketch of the story in place, because if something contradicts something else, or if something works against something else, or there's a dissonance, however slight, I'm like, oh, the players are gonna know, and they're gonna get in the Discord, and they're gonna tell me.
I have to ask, will there ever be a Knucklebones physical board game that we can purchase to play it ourselves?
There actually is a Knucklebones. Yeah, it's made by sorry, what was it again? Yeah, what he said, Power Up Dice. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, but we can confirm with you later, but they did a beautiful set, and you buy, and they sort of magnetize to each other, so you have your set and someone else has one. But I do find knucklebones a bit trickier in real life because it's a lot of math. It's handy in the game that it does it for you. So.
But if you have like 18 dice, you can play knucklebones. You can make it happen.
Another question over there.
At the back.
I know this is kind of spoilery, but you know how the two Aim and Ball, you know how their mum is Fornius? Why are they the one who waits assistance?
That is actually answered in the game, but it's just a little tiny interaction that you have to go through to find. Does anyone not want me to say what it is? Like, is that, or should I just go for it? I'm just going to go for it because one person nodded over here and I'm just going to take this position. So Shimura loved the one who waits very, very dearly. And when they were locked up, Shimura took these kits from Fornius and gave them to the one who waits as companions, really, not necessarily guards, although Narinda made them into guards. Because Shimura didn't want Narinda to be lonely. And that's just the simple answer there. You can find the interaction in game after you resurrect them, and if you don't know how, check the fan wiki. It's got all the answers.
Just wondering, when the goat travels over into the lamb's world, is it like permanently stuck in the lamb's world, or can the goat like go back?
I think the goat can go back.
I think when you end co-op, the goat disappears back to their realm, and so I think there is a sense of like them coming backwards and forwards.
What do they do there when they're waiting for the lamb to need help?
Sitting around.
We'll see. We'll see. Any more quizzes? One up the front. Super friendly, I promise.
My Mystic Zelda's name was Bob, just FYI. When you were making the story, did you ever get to a point where you might have had something like locked away in canon and you had to change it because of the direction the story took? Or was everything kind of set in place the whole time and it wasn't like major changes?
Say all the time, constantly. Stuff's constantly getting cut, constantly changing, constantly adapting. Because in games you have that need to serve and reinforce the game design and the game loop and the experience the player is having. So, and I think, because Jojo, you came from drama, and you were saying that that is one of the noticeable differences between the two mediums. So yeah, I think we cut stuff all the time. But then we had an interesting question come up the other day in the team. It's like, would we ever retcon something to kind of say, no, it was always that way? And I think we've got a hard line. We would never do that because we would think hard enough about it and try and find a solution. Or if it is not going to work, then it's not right for the game.
Yeah, I think the thing to that is that it's a living world. Like, we're still making the content and we're still making the updates. And so in that same way, it's like the story is alive and liable to mold and change. I would say that we do generally, like me and narrative and these guys in like game design, we do generally move along the same direction. We've all got a pretty clear vision and understanding of what we want. And as I mentioned, like, I will always have a reason for something happening because I would just hate to be in the situation where I have to go, I don't know, oh, that's me being bad at my job. But also, like, Carlos communicates through art, right? I communicate through words, Carlos communicates through art. Sometimes Carlos will just make an insanely good concept art that I have no rhyme or reason for, and it's just so wonderful that and I know that the players will love it, that I'm like, I will find a way to make that work.
Thank you, Jojo.
You're welcome.
Will there ever be more like parts to level up like your weapons and swords?
Was that, would we ever add more upgrades to the weapons and swords? We have added some. At the moment, I think what we're doing is we're exploring a new area in which we might exploring new weapons, and that would come with new abilities and things like that. But I'm not supposed to say that.
He's gonna get yelled at after this.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Sure. Some questions over here.
So with the made-up language that like everybody speaks there, is that like you just told someone to like go in the booth and just like say anything, or was it more planned than that? And also, I noticed some of them kind of sound a little different. Are they meant to be speaking like different languages?
Do you mean like the written language that, for example, the Mystic Seller will like actually speak, or do you mean like that shakalambaya?
Yeah, that one.
That one was really driven by our audio director Narayan Johnson, aka Riverboy.
I think he created a bit of a language. I mean, he probably couldn't translate it directly, but he takes it very seriously. And to him, I think you can actually, if you find him, if he's around, you can ask him to speak in that, and he can do it.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's like direct. He hasn't written a dictionary of or anything like that, but he's built it out in a way that he's very passionate about, and he believes it.
And in terms of like the differences between tone, I think that is like very much to also reinforce the differences in theme. Like, so for example, you have your followers in your cult, and it's a place where you feel safe and you're meant to be really, really cozy. And so all the followers there are shakalambaya, shakalambaya. And then you go out into like the wider world, and the creatures there are like a bit messed up, the bishops are crazy, and then that's the big like vocal switch there as well, along with the dialogue.
Reintroduced with the Unholy Alliance, but for the pitches way back in the day, you guys already had the Lamb character kind of around in some of the cutscenes. My question is, was there ever a third character that you considered for the player to use other than the Lamb and the Goat?
Yes, we had 4 characters, and the goat was one of them. And it was the original idea was it was a bit more like a sort of Age of Empires type of build up your cult, and there'll be other cult leaders, and they'll send you messages, and have a sort of power dynamic kind of thing. So we had a goat, which later became the goat, but at the time was called Payment, and then became the big baddie, and then we designed the one who waits, and we're like, oh, that's way cooler, we've got to get rid of the goats. So again, that was an example of like everything comes back eventually. So we held on to the goat, and now they're finally back in the game, which we're really happy about. And we had a snake and an owl, a snake, owl, goat, and a lamb. Owl became Harrow, yeah. So yeah, we try to recycle stuff as much as possible, because if it was a good idea and it just didn't fit, it's probably still a good idea, but find a time for it to fit and then work it in. Do that a lot.
Wesley over here.
Are we ever going to get a prequel or a sequel?
That's another thing I'm not allowed to talk about, or I'll be yelled at. But let's just say there's going to be lots more Lamb in the future, and we still love the world of the Lamb, and we want to do a lot more of it, and we're really excited about it. So I can't explicitly answer you, but yeah, just watch this space. Yes.
I will say, like I said in my 40-page story bible or whatever, like the ideas exist. Absolutely. Whether or not they're feasible to make into a game or a comic or anything else is TBD, but
yeah.
The thinking's been started.
Have you thought about what a boss fight against the Lamb would be?
What was that, sorry?
Have you thought about how a boss fight against the Lamb would go?
Against the Lamb? Well, that would be cool. So you like play as the goat, and then you fight the Lamb.
Carlos, if you had to draw an eldritch version of the Lamb, do you know what they would look like?
Yeah, of course. I probably already did it sometime. So, you can always use that.
We'll bring it back eventually.
Yeah.
I think it'd be super cool, like to have to. It'd be an interesting thing, and probably not for Cult of the Lamb because you are the Lamb, but
yeah,
all the bishops have like their eldritch versions, and I've always wondered what the Lamb was going to be. Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
There's a glint in your eye there, so yeah. So it's not something we've thought about, but I think it'd be a really cool thing to explore.
Any other cues from you? Yeah, go on.
Why did you choose a red color scheme for the Call of the Lamb?
That's probably a question for you.
Because red and black is just cool. Satanic, you know.
And like in blood and passion and darkness, and it just like created such a strong color palette.
And white as well, so it's like darkness and light are the sort of biggest themes of the game. So
yeah,
have that, and then red for blood and fire.
When we first started to make the game, we wanted to have like a color palette where it was just black, red, and white. And so we actually wanted a lot more of it, but it just looked horrible, and it hurt your eyes if you looked at it too long. So we eventually brought more colors in, but it was always red and black. That was always the founding design.
I
Yes, we've got one here in the blue jumper, and then we've got one up the back afterwards. Oh, and we're stopping here first. That's
Let's see over
okay.
here.
We got time.
Got time?
Will there ever be more crowns introduced?
More, was that crowns?
I don't know. I feel like we're losing
I reckon there'll be some more
Something
crowns.
tells me. Watch this space, Wink.
Something. It's too good not to use, you know. And the crowns are so iconically cult. And also, I just want to explore what those powers look like. We've only seen them worn by the other bishops, and they have such strong, distinct characterization. So, who wears the other crowns? Let's see. I think it'd be cool though.
This guy, the blue hoodie.
Blue jumper.
In the Unholy Alliance trailer, when like the lamb goes to the puddle, so like another lamb pulls it in, but when it comes out, it is the goat. Does that imply anything?
I just feel like talking so much. Imply something in like, I wouldn't read it for too much like literal meaning, but definitely like the implication that it's the two of them like stuck in this cycle and that they feed each other is like definitely the vibe. And also the tying in of that black puddle, which is like Ica, it's the blood of gods, is a very big theme of the goat in particular. So
we're not sure how much power that has, and also like it also implies it's kind of sending the message they're dark reflections of each other as well. So that's why, like again, not necessarily literal, because in the game that doesn't happen, but in the trailer it's a good way to express who this character is. Oh, it's a reflection, and then they travel into each other's worlds, and so.
Green hoodie up the back first, please, Jim, and then we'll come to you. Thank you.
Alright, so this question has been on my mind a while. It's in relation to the animated series or the animated show. When the ocean freezes over and we get no implication about that, does that mean anything for the future of the game? Is that like an update, like a hint to the next update maybe?
Yes.
I was going to try and be coy about it at the very least. I was going to be like, oh yeah, maybe, I don't know, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, we've just, yes, it's a tease to what we're planning next. And I don't know if, I'm not going to give it away to you, but like, yeah, it's definitely pointing towards what's next.
I would say that most, but maybe not all, but definitely most things we do have intention behind them.
Yeah.
Some things are random.
With all the bishops and the one who waits, does the crown make them a god? Because in the case of the lamb, you see the lamb being given a crown and becoming a god. Does that mean that all the bishops and the one who waits were given crowns in the beginning? And also, could there be dark reflections of the crowns as well? Like, the goat doesn't just have, like, has like an evil version of the one who waits.
That's cool. That's a good question. Well, I think, so with the crowns themselves, the way we looked at them is they give you the power to indoctrinate followers, and the followers they can't distinguish between you and the crown, so they worship you. But as you know, in the beginning of the game, the one who waits loans you their one, and that's the tool you use to start a cult. So you have to have a crown to start a cult, but then whether you're a god or not then becomes blurred, because what is a god, right? And that's the question. And having people follow you, and you have a game over if you don't have any followers. So it's about having people follow you and they believe you're a god. So does that make you a god? Is that enough? And that's the questions we try to raise in the game.
Yeah, and I think that is the balance. There is actually more. There is also Easter egg dialogue, little bits of story that you can, like crumbs you can find in the game. You just need to give the right resource to the right follower, and you'll get like a little something in return. But yeah, it is as Jay's saying. It's like, do they need the crowns, or do the crowns need them? Is it both? Is it neither? We'll see.
First of all, love the game. Question is there any concepts or perhaps future designs of almost like a flip side of the coin, where you have the more like Abrahamic divine like assets or characters that may come up? So like, I know the red and black is a good color scheme, but more of like a white and gold as like the opposite side of the coin. but still like gods in their own right.
So, Carl, so what do you think? When you design stuff, would you ever want to do like sort of more like a holy kind of like whites and golds rather than reds and blacks?
Mystic Seller.
Yeah, sure.
Seller, yeah.
Sounds good. For me, we can go forward. So let's do it.
Yeah, I think it was. We're also very careful never to name check a real religion or a real god, or is it because it's not really about religion so much as like abusing your followers, really. But yeah, the aesthetic's always been, I guess, sort of satanic, just in the aesthetic. But I think we have characters who kind of convert that. Even the one who waits, wears white sort of robes that almost look a bit sort of papal almost, and so we try to subvert that from time to time.
Go for it. Is there a favorite Bishop's world that was like the most fun to design?
So which bishop's world did you like to draw the design?
The biome.
Yeah, the biome. Yeah.
I think Anora is my favorite. I just like those dead followers in the mushrooms, like suffering and things like that. I think, yeah, Anora.
For me, narratively, it's probably Still Cradle. I think Still Cradle says a lot about the world, and I obviously love Shimura. I'm favorite.
I like Anchor Deep just because the caustics, the colors, and the music is just so bouncy there. I just really like that world, that underwater world.
Sorry, Darkwood. No shout out for Darkwood.
Okay.
His favorite is Darkwood. Do you have another question here?
Will we ever get to wear the other bishops' crowns?
That's something we've tried. We actually tried that to make that work, but then the question was, if you're wearing the crown, does that mean you get all their powers? Do you get that eldritch form? And it just kind of spiraled out, and we just felt like we couldn't do that idea justice. So at the moment, we're probably not going to end up doing that, but it would be an amazing thing, and it's something we wanted to do, but it's just a bit too hard to make meaningful. Sorry.
You've released some artwork where Narendra has his third eye open. Is there going to be added to the game, a way to open his third eye, or is that already somewhere?
This is for Narendra's follower form, correct? He's a follower?
I want to make that eye open. We can do that eye open.
I think so. No?
Yeah?
Oh,
No, what you've seen is obviously Carlos's pitch to open Narendra's third eye.
Sometimes he does stuff and then we just have to make it work. But we can't do it because... Okay, sorry.
Are there any more questions from you guys? We've got time for maybe one or two more.
Does Claw Neck and those characters also have a cult?
Sorry, did you ask about Clawneck and those guys having a cult? No, they don't. So, as Jay said, you need a crown to have a cult. And only gods can have crowns, and only crowns can have gods. So, they're not. Clawneck and his siblings very much live outside of the hierarchy, and they actually precede it, so...
They've sort of always been alive, right? Could you tell us a little bit about our favorite three ducks?
I can tell you what's pretty much in the game, essentially, is that the three of them were in this world, they were the first gods, and the first gods shaped the lands of the old faith, and they made it what they wanted it to be, and they severed it from the rest of the world, they molded the mountains, and they created the rivers and all of that. Because in this world, the land is responsive to the beings that hold power in it. And so when the first gods disappeared, they had all these tools, and they had all these powers, they had crowns, and they had weapons, and they had all these things. That they wanted to pass onwards to the gods that came next. And so they hatched Clawneck, Kadai, and Shimak beneath their bosom, they say in the game, to carry on these tools, but to keep them free of corruption and keeping them themselves, they made their natures neutral. And they can't seek power, and they can't claim it for themselves. And obviously that hasn't worked out for all three of them. One of them has had a tough time with that. But yeah, otherwise, by the very nature of their beings, they incite no devotion. So that's a bit about them. We got one more up the back, and it might be our last.
Okay, so this is from a gameplay perspective. I was collecting sin to max out my temple for the achievement, because I 100%. But I lost 3 of the bishops in the process. Can I get them back?
Is that because you damned them? Like you took too much sin and then they...
Yeah, I would always open the drink house and then do sinner's pride.
Nice. Yes, when you go, next time you go into one of the so Darkwood or wherever, I was going to say dungeon, but whenever you go in there, those damned followers will appear and try to attack you, and if you can beat them 3 times, you can re-indoctrinate them and get them back. So they're not gone forever, they will be back.
Follow up to that, so if I damned one, didn't get one back, damned another, did I lose the first one?
Yeah, they should all come back. They should just be put into a list. So like you'll get one back, and then the next one the next time. And
oh, so I just have to stand dungeon runs.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about not giving up on those little guys.
Yeah,
welcome them back into the folds of the cult. Even though they left, they're always welcome back.
How could you do that to them? Sure.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that you did that to them, though. All right, I think that might be it for us. It has been a pleasure and a joy to speak with you all and answer some questions. We're going to be hanging around this booth at 4 o'clock today. Carlos and I will be doing some signings of Pilgrim. We're always happy to talk about art and story and lore and all that stuff, so don't be scared of us. Do you guys want to say anything before the end?
Thanks for listening to our ramblings. It's always fun to talk about it, and if you have any more questions, as you say, we'll be around. Love to talk to you more about it. So thank you very much for your time and for coming to spend it with us.
Thank you so much. See you at 4 if you come here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.